You're listening to Impulse to Innovation. The Institution of Mechanical Engineers podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Helen Mees. As a global community of mechanical engineers with over 120,000 members in 140 countries, the Institution of Mechanical Engineers has been at the heart of the engineering profession since 1847. The institution's mission is to improve the world through engineering by sharing the latest news, views and insight into the creative world of technology and the people that make it happen. During the first week of September, the institution hosted Volunteer Week, a back-to-back week of committee meetings and networking, enabling members from all over the world to take part in a wide range of activities. As a chair of a division, this is a great opportunity for me to meet up with not just my divisional members, but members from across the institution. I personally always find it a fulfilling and enjoyable time meeting new members and seeing a few old faces in some cases, some that I've not seen from before COVID. I thought, as I was going to be there for 2 days, I would take the opportunity to record a few interviews, speaking with members about why they were there, what they hoped to gain from attending sessions, and what got them excited about being a volunteer. On day one of my visit, I attended council. As a divisional chair, I have an ex officio seat on council, which enables me to represent the over 3,000 members who identify as biomedical engineers in the institution. In the last few years, the structure of council has changed significantly, with a much more streamlined membership. Council, in its simplest form, acts as both a sounding board and a mirror for trustees, reflecting the views and ideas of members to help the trustee board make informed decisions on behalf of the whole membership. But its work is much more nuanced than that, with small task and finish groups and subgroups being formed to ensure every aspect of a topic is analysed and agreed upon. To some of you listening, that might sound like your worst nightmare, sitting in constant meetings. Of course, it can be hard work at times, but surprisingly, it's an excellent forum in which to test your negotiation and management skills, as well as listening and learning new ways to view opinion, ensuring that everyone has a voice and that a well-reasoned outcome can be agreed upon. Ideas and processes I have personally learned in council and other committees in the IMechE have over the years made their way into my everyday working practice, which has benefited me greatly. Despite the hectic council agenda, I was able to sit down with Council Chair Martin Robinson to ask him about the structure and purpose of council and how council's decisions flow down to the grassroots members. We also discussed the impact of the newly released strategy and why members should consider getting actively involved in the operational and governance committees at HQ.
Yes, hello, I'm Martin Robinson. I'm the Chair of Council, a post I've been very pleased to do for about the last 4 years now.
I know you've not just been on council though for a long time, have you, Martin? You've been on many committees and boards over the years. Can you just briefly explain what council does, what it is, what it is as an entity and kind of where it sits within the boards of governance?
Okay. Council is an important body that has changed. Name has changed, stayed the same, but what it is has changed over time. When the institution was founded, it was founded with a council. Right. And it had that council, and the council ran the institution right up until 20 years ago, say. And then it was considered the size of the council and the size of the institution had grown to such a point that improved decision-making would come to condense down those in control to a trustee board. And this fell in line with the recommendations of the Charities Commission, which we fall under.
Yeah.
We retain a council, and we do that because the council is the elected representative body of the members. This is a membership organisation. Members have rights and they have interests, and there has to be a way of communicating those and having people who can speak on behalf of members and advise the trustees to assist them to set the direction that the institution goes in.
Yeah, and that body, that council body, is made up from people from all different demographics, all different age groups, all different levels of experience, and international members too, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and it's a large council. I mean, some people might say it's a little too large, but what it does have the benefit of is it has members who represent every one of the regions that we operate in internationally, every one of the regions that we have set up and organise around the UK and the Republic of Ireland. It has a representative from all of the divisions, which predominantly mean industries, and the groups, which you could say mean a technical area of interest and specialisation.
Yeah.
So we do that, and we also have independently elected members who don't have a necessary affiliation to anything like that. And then they're made up of both ordinary members and fellows,
right,
so those yet to be a fellow and so on. Within that, we gain a great deal of variation in age, location, industry, interests and everything. So we are a very varied group.
Yeah, and it is nice to hear so many accents and voices in the meeting. It's been quite a hectic day today, hasn't it? But it's been really worthwhile, most definitely. Now, why, as a charity and membership organisation, do we have to have all of these advisory operations, governance boards? You know, what impact do they have in running the institution, and how does that trickle down to our average everyday member?
Well, first of all, let's not forget, this is a complex organisational challenge.
Yeah.
When you have a successful membership organisation like ourselves, where we've got over 110,000 members around the world, you need an organisation. You need some form of making sure you meet local needs and, as we've been talking about, professional interest needs. Then there are the different facets of what the institution actually does, from setting, encouraging, shaping the standards of professionalism, which it does in assisting people through the registration process, accrediting the university courses and other training that gets them to that route. So by necessity, it's going to be complex.
Yeah.
So we have an organisation which is in parts matrix, in parts it's a separation of responsibilities. By operational, we mean those committees and boards that have a particular scope of interest for them to look after a particular group of members who they're hoping to serve. And as I've said, at the very centre of this, the people who have to take responsibility for setting the direction and making sure things happen, and the responsibility to go with it is the trustees. They can't do that and also do all of the work of diving into particular subjects to help inform decision making that they will have to do. That is where the council comes in and is of such great use.
Yeah, and of course I, as chair of a division, I sit on the technical strategy board, which I'm going to be attending tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to seeing what discussions come out of that tomorrow as well. Over the last 3+ years, I would say, the various committees, trustee board and executive teams have been deeply engaged in developing a new strategy for the institution, and details of which we will put on the episode notes for everyone to have a look at. But it boils down to, we have 2 key strategy goals, don't we? To focus on member development and to maximise the impact that the institution has. What is Council's remit in delivering those goals? I know that's a very complex question to unpackage, but in a nutshell, what are we here to do in Council in terms of making sure that strategy goes forward?
Well, and something we've been talking as today, we've had an annual in-person council meeting. We've had people coming from all around the country and around the world and talking about matters like this. What we've been saying is that strategy, which is the intent of the institution to pursue certain courses, to do certain things, to be successful for its members, is the contract that binds us all together. Everybody who is going to work for the institution, in the interest of the institution, this is the agreement that we all understand. This is what the team is here for. This is what we're doing. And it's really important. So it's taken some time for us to get to this now elegant and simple statement. Why has it taken us so long? Well, there is one unique thing about the Institute of Mechanical Engineers that separates it, I think, from the other PEIs, the other institutions, which is our diversity. We cover every industry.
Yeah.
And within those industries, our technologies are actually very, very wide.
Yeah.
And so we actually lack the simplicity that some other institutions enjoy by more specialisation than we've got. We've got it all. And therefore, both in determining a strategy, the people contributing all have very different backgrounds, different cultural experiences, see things in different ways, use different languages. That means that it takes a little longer to do it. And then we have to examine that it fits in all of these situations that they understand. Of course, you see the end result, and the elegance is its beauty. It's simple. Why didn't you get to that right at the beginning?
It's kind of like looking at a swan, isn't it? It's elegant and beautiful on top, but it's peddling like anything underneath.
Absolutely.
And yes, we've spent a considerable amount of time with council and the various groups and subgroups and committees that have been discussing it for a long time. And it is a very simple statement now that we all can get behind. But it has taken an awful lot of real thought by a huge number of members to come to this final sort of outcome.
In a way, when you're faced with such complexity, and we've had, obviously this has been who we are for very, very long time. If that complexity is so difficult, one option is to shy away from it, right? Now, what we're trying to do now is cross the Rubicon. We want to get to the other side where we've mastered the complexity and made it simple. That's the journey which has been difficult.
Yeah. I think as well, those of us who have been involved in it will look back in a few years' time when it's been so adopted by members that it becomes second nature, and we can kind of say we were there.
Absolutely.
in its formation. And I think that's something that all those who are in council and the subsequent groups that are involved can be very proud of.
Yes.
Yeah, totally. Although we meet quite regularly, today we've been meeting at HQ, and I ought to just say that you can hear an echo, and that's because we are in this beautiful council chamber, aren't we? And although we haven't had our meeting in here today, for those of you who've never been to HQ, it is oak panelled from floor to ceiling. It has incredible chandeliers, and we're being overlooked by George Stevenson at the other end of the room, which is quite
and James Watt at this end.
And James Watt's behind me. Yes,
James was arguably the father of the Industrial Revolution.
Absolutely.
An astonishing developer of the steam engine that made everything change.
Yeah, so even though these godfathers of the institution are kind of looking down on us, today has been an opportunity to really talk about the future, hasn't it, of the institution and how we're going to drive that forward. And I think that makes me feel very proud, actually.
Absolutely. And, there's a really long way to go. One thing, and this is just a little plug here, for our friends and colleagues in Yorkshire, next year is the 400th anniversary of the Cutlers Company of Hallamshire.
Oh, wow.
And I'm very proud that my ancestor was the very first master cutler in 1624, and excellent. I wish everyone in Sheffield and all of the members of that company which are very vibrant companies today. Many members and masters of it in the past have been early members of, particularly of this institution. I wish them very best for next year.
Well, as a Sheffield lass myself, and had families who were, certainly I think my great-grandmother was a Buffer girl. So there's a pride in that.
Excellent.
It's great to be able to celebrate those kind of things.
And it's possible to keep celebrating and knowing your origins, and also stay fresh and contemporary and thinking ahead for the future.
Yeah, totally. And that's been a big part of our discussion today as well, hasn't it? For members listening today who think they don't have the experience of becoming a council member or a committee member, what would you say to them to encourage them to come and get involved?
Oh, just get on with it. None of us do, and all of us do.
Yeah.
Right? Take life and grab it. Come and contribute. Come and achieve something in the way of both what you will give to the institution, to the profession, what you will gain in the friendships, the contacts, the people who you will meet who will inspire you to go on and be so successful in your own lives. Grasp the opportunity. We would love to see you. Please do. Don't be shy. Come forward. And I would certainly like to see you on council in the future.
I think that's a great way to end this segment, Martin. I think if you don't think you can do it, come and find out what it's about,
yes.
and see whether you have got the skill or you bring something to the table. And I think that's a lesson that I will take away from today, is having those voices in that room today, all with those different experiences and different backgrounds, just bringing their views to the table. And I think that's what we want to encourage people, members who've never considered getting involved. That's really what we want, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Martin, thank you very much for joining me on today's show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Sylvain Jamet has been an active volunteer for many years, both at regional level, being chair of the BMED Cambridge Centre, and at board level as a trustee, vice chair of council and CLC, and several strategy boards. During a quick tea break, I asked Sylvain what being a council member meant to him and what impact the new strategy would have on the future of the IMechE.
I'm Sylvain Jamet. I'm an elected fellow on council. I am a member of the council leadership committee, and I chair the governance subgroup of council.
Sylvain, it's lovely to have you on the podcast. I know you've been actively involved in committees and all kinds of governance over the years, and you and I, of course, have worked together on the biomedical committee as well. Yeah. Why, as a charity and membership organisation, do we need to have advisory, operational and governance boards? What is the importance and the value to the institution, do you think?
Well, I think there's just so much to figure out, and a lot of competence in the membership that it would be a shame not to have an advisory channel where you can go out with a question. It's unfair on the few trustees, I don't remember how many we have, to run the whole place without some feedback, and again tapping into the diversity of what everybody knows about. Be able to say, this is the next good idea for the institution or for this subset of the institution.
I think you're absolutely right. There's so much knowledge, isn't there, within an expertise and experience within the membership. Drawing on that and learning from that, from industry and the experiences that they have outside of the institution, can really make a difference to the way we govern and the way we look after our members, I suppose, at the end of the day.
And it's our finger on the pulse of the world out there.
Yeah.
Our members are in the education, the industries, they're doing the job.
Yeah.
They know what they face on day basis, what engineering is about now, out there as opposed to what it was when this place got founded. I don't expect that. I know we've evolved, but without the outside view, we can't.
Absolutely.
Continue evolving.
And in terms of we're here today at council, and we're just about to go back into the council meeting to discuss finances. Yes, I know. And how does that trickle down, do you think, to members, the grassroots members, what we're doing here today?
Well, I mean, to be plain, I think we have to do a better job of that. I don't think it always trickles down. What should happen is that members see that the institution is well run and they have the information coming down to them in a not an avalanche of stuff, but something that pointed and says the institution is doing this on your behalf. If you want to talk to us about it, this is the way. And I mean, if you look, that's actually not super straightforward. So what should happen is that there is a flow of information, and it's a two-way system where everybody can find out what's going on, feedback if they want to, if they got something to say, and some mechanism actually takes it on. I don't think we're there yet. And I think it is a little bit hard to navigate what the institution is really on about. So I think we have to work on that, and it's important that council, not alone, staff, executive, figures that out. It's going to take a while. And it's constantly evolving, isn't it, as well? You know, each generation that comes in to take on these roles is going to have a new impact in a different way to the previous generation. And I guess we're at a crossroads, perhaps, right now, in looking at where the young generation of engineers is coming in and what they expect from us as an institution, and what our older members expect from the institution. And engineering is, changing every day. I don't know how much mechanical engineering makes sense after your degree. Now, it used to be that you went in and you did a very mechanically dominant job after your degree. Now I think graduates are faced with a much, much wider demand on technical skills that comprise their core degree, but is way, way vaster than that. And, as an institution, having to work with others, I think, figuring out, we're talking in there about relevance to membership. And our job, I think, is to figure out how we equip the engineers to deal with what the demand is on them today.
After all these years of your involvement in in the governance and various committees and so on, what's your hope for the institution kind of going forward with the strategy now that we've got in place and the meetings that we've had a very positive meeting this morning in council? What's your hope for the future for the institution?
I think what I'm hoping to see is that we capitalise on we've had some tough times recently, and I think we're seeing the end of that. We're seeing much tighter collaboration between staff, the executive, the trustee board, council, trying to figure out and meeting in some months' time to figure out some more how the collaboration between those three parts of the leadership of the institution actually work out. And what I'm looking forward to see is that actually delivering a slicker institution. A more transparent, open environment where everybody knows enough about what's going on rather than being surprised by some initiative or others that they wish they knew about before it actually came out, which is where we still are a bit. So I'm really hoping to see that the work we're doing and will be doing in the next few years is going to change the place to something where just information flows and people know who's doing what, why they're doing it, when it's coming out, and if they can help.
Sylvain, thank you so much for having a chat with me today. And
Most welcome.
I'm looking forward to this afternoon session. We're going to be discussing finances, so it's going to get quite
it could
involved.
Get interesting. Yes. I'm a diplomat. Interesting is what I will settle on.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
IMechE is the chair of the Young Members Board. Emil has been actively involved in young engineers activities for many years, with various roles on the YMB committee, taking up the position of chair of the board just a few months ago. When I caught up with him, he had just come out of his very first council session. I asked Emil what was the value of having young member representation on council and what he hoped to achieve as YMB chair in the coming years.
Hi, so my name is IMechE. I am the chair of the Young Members Board.
Emil, it's been quite a hectic day today, hasn't it?
Yes, yes it has.
We've just come out of council and we've had a lot to talk about.
We have. It's been a very full, busy day. As I say, there's been a lot of discussion. It got a little bit heated sometimes, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, but in any discussion of its size and scale, and with that many people in the room, of course, everybody's going to have different views and things.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. I mean, what's the value of being involved in council for you from a young member's point of view?
So for me, I think council is, it's a quite a large body. It's kind of a representative of sort of the breadth and depth of the institution's membership. So it's good to kind of both contribute and to also to hear those different views. I think that's really valuable, particularly where you maybe have a slightly smaller or more specialised board or committee. You don't always get that.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it important? I mean, I guess this is a loaded question in some respects when we've just been talking about it, but the value to ensure that young members have a voice within council and in the decision making and governance process of the institution is absolutely important, isn't it? Oh,
absolutely, yeah. And so this was my first council meeting.
Okay.
I only started my term at the start of the summer.
Yeah.
So this was my first council meeting. I will not lie, it was a little bit intimidating, I think, at times.
Yeah.
But it's, like I said, it's really important to kind of hear those range of views, to contribute them, to actually speak out for young members as well. And we've got a good range and a good number of young members who are involved in council who are not afraid to speak up, which is really, really helpful.
Yeah, and one of the conversations we've had this afternoon actually is ensuring that young members can get involved at an early stage in their career so that they can have an opportunity to take part in these things as they go through their career. We talked about mentoring actually, didn't we, today?
And we did, yes.
What are your thoughts on that? Ensuring that young members can learn the craft and the skills that they need to be part of a governance body. Do you think that that's something that young members really should be considering and the institution itself should be, having a conversation about?
I think it's something that young members should be asking for. We often don't get that exposure to that kind of environment early on in our careers, and so it's the kind of thing that actually we do need an introduction to, really. And I think that kind of that mentoring really helps.
Yeah. So obviously this has been your first council. You've just taken over as chair of the Young Members Board. What are you hoping that in your tenure that being involved in this committee will do for you personally, as in your professional development, but also in helping the Young Members Board going forward?
So my key theme during my term as chair of the Young Members Board is engagement. We're looking to reinvigorate certain activities that fell away during the pandemic, and we, particularly for young members, actually there is real value in having that, as we say, that face-to-face involvement, that engagement, that mentoring, that community. So that's my key theme here. And that's what I kind of need to bring through into the discussions with council. And we had a discussion earlier on in the day about some of the challenges that some of the other boards and committees are having in kind of building up their volunteer bases again. And obviously this is my first meeting. It's a bit of a learning curve for me.
Yeah.
But that's certainly for the YMB. That's the main thing I'm aiming to achieve. I'll be honest, I think, as someone else mentioned earlier in the day, I took up my position as chair of Young Members Board and then found out that came with a council position with it.
Right, okay, yeah. So what would you say to any young member listening to this podcast in terms of getting involved in regional boards, in technical strategy boards, in the operational and governance side? What would you say to encourage them to get involved?
For a start, get in touch. Get in touch with your local panel. If you've got a technical interest, get in touch with your local division and group. We've got all of the contact details on our website. If you have any doubts, feel free to ask me or anyone else. But in practice, by and large, actually, I really get value kind of both ways. So the institution obviously gets a lot out of its volunteers, but at the same time, I get a lot of value out of the community that we have here.
Yeah, absolutely. It is definitely a two-way street, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about coming and participating, but also then, getting that input from other people and feeling like in a found family, really.
Completely. 100%. That's why I've stuck with it.
Yeah, totally. Well, thank you ever so much for taking the time. I know it's been an exhausting day, but it's been really good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen.
With a short overnight rest, I headed back to HQ for Technical Strategy Board. The TSB is one of 7 operational boards. Its role is to represent members across their industrial sectors and technical specialisms, which are divided into 18 divisional boards and groups. TSB's purpose is to develop and support the engineering and technical activities across the Ds and Gs, as well as to advise the trustee board on technical matters across industry and coordinate strategic development by producing reports and advice to government authorities through the IMechE's policy team. Earlier in the year, you may have heard me speak with the then chair of TSB, Paul Jones, about the work TSB has been doing in the development of the institution's strategy document. However, in June, Paul finished his tenure and James Collinson, past chair of the Railway Division, took up the post. Just before we went into the TSB meeting, I caught up with James to ask him why he felt driven to volunteer on the Technical Strategy Board and how the members of TSB engage with the wider membership to ensure they have a voice within the institution.
So James Collinson, chair of the IMechE Technical Strategy Board.
James, thank you ever so much for joining me on today's podcast. Now, you've recently taken over from Paul Jones as chair of TSB. What made you want to put yourself forward to be chair, and how are you finding it?
That's an interesting one. I suppose there's a story behind that in terms of it's been my kind of time while supporting the IMechE, or being a volunteer in the IMechE, about being a volunteer for over 10 years now.
Right.
But I have been very much kind of focused on my area of work, which is the railway. So I very much grew up in the railway division, did one of my first presentations at a seminar, remember that day, and then got more and more drawn into doing stuff to help the railway division to be good at what it's doing. And it was only probably 2 years ago, so to 2021, when I ended up being the chairman of the railway division for a year, that I stumbled across the Technical Strategy Board, in terms of realised that it exists and started to get a feel for what it was all about. And it was while I was in there, being part of, engaging with all the other divisions and groups that are part of the institution, I kind of started to realise as engineers, I'd been kind of almost like just thinking about my world, railway division. Yeah. But we shared similar kind of engineering challenges, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence. There are themes that actually cross all those kind of boundaries, and we're missing a trick in terms of how we can kind of learn from each other. Yeah. And so I got really excited about kind of being part of it as my tenure as part of the railway division. But then I also thought, actually, this is like joining the dots. So I had a bit of a theme when I was chair in terms of the railway sector. A lot of it is about kind of if you're good at it as an engineer, what makes you really good is understanding about all the other disciplines that are around you. So signal engineering, electrification, trains and stuff. So joining those dots kind of helps you to kind of do stuff better. And I thought, well, this is the same, but it's you're dealing multi-sector. So I thought, wow, that's really interesting. So when I realised there was the opportunity to be part of that longer term, because when my tenure as the chair of the Rail Division ended, I stepped away. But actually, I thought, no, I want to be more involved. So I took up was nominated as vice chair. And then this year I'm becoming chairman.
And it is quite a lot that way, isn't it? When you kind of get involved in a committee, whether that's a regional or, as TSB is, technical boards, and then you suddenly find there's this kind of rabbit warren of all these other boards and everything that you can kind of get involved in. Technical Strategy Board comes under the operational boards, doesn't it?
It does.
What does that really mean? And what is TSB's remit really in terms of it being part of this group of governing bodies?
Yeah. So the way I kind of picture it, I suppose, is the best way it's the way I've kind of tried to frame it, is kind of the IMechE has a lot to do. It's a huge organisation, and its organisation is not just the staff; it's the members. The members effectively are part of that organisation. So it looks to arrange itself by having like different functions or different teams, as any large organisation would. So that's what the operational boards are effectively. They're enabling you to group different individuals with a particular remit and allow them to focus on that. And then collectively, all those different operating boards or kind of teams deliver what the IMechE is trying to do for its members. So that's kind of what how I try and picture it in terms of. It sounds a bit kind of flash, I suppose, operational board, but in reality it's just a team, it's a subset of the larger organisation. In terms of the remit for the Technical Strategy Board, it's two things, and the clue's in the title, I suppose. Technical, so it's all about making sure that what we do gives our members the right kind of opportunities for technical growth. So all the stuff and that's why the divisions and groups are there, because they're the ones who are out in the field, busy providing opportunities, lectures, seminars, kind of events that enables people to learn more. So that's what the technical part is in terms of making sure that we're being relevant for our members. I think relevant is a really kind of key part of that for me. The other part is the strategy, and for me it's kind of allowing us to continue to be relevant. So horizon scanning, basically, what's changing in the world? What do we as an institution need to do to help our engineers to keep up with it? It's not an easy thing to do. Mechanical engineering is all around us. Everything that we do is mechanical engineering. But if you were to look at the IMechE now, you might think actually there's gaps in terms of parts of what people do in their world. If they were to look into the IMechE, could they see their fit in there?
Yes.
And that's the bit where, at the moment, the things that we're grappling over is, cybersecurity, climate, sustainability. People don't think about that as that's an engineering thing. They kind of think about that as meteorological or kind of, internet type stuff. But actually, engineers are key to kind of dealing with some of those issues. Yeah. And we need to help our engineers to appreciate that, learn about it, and then be able to apply it. And that, for me, is I suppose almost like kind of secret to success, or the definition of success is enabling our engineers to continue to kind of do what they do really well in a world that's changing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned there right at the beginning that there are lots of divisions and groups. There are 18, in fact, aren't there? Yes. You kind of have to corral all of and they're very different sizes, different compositions in terms of demographics of engineers and everything else. How do you ensure, as chair of TSB, that all of those different groups get a voice and are able to sort of share their viewpoints? And what commonalities exist between the Ds and Gs? You touched on it a little bit there, that we can all kind of get behind and make an impact on.
Yeah, no, you're right. There's 18 of them, and in reality, I don't need to give them a voice. They've all got their own voice, so they've all got their own operational board. So they're autonomous in their own right to some extent in terms of they can do what is right for their own members and what's right for their communities. So that's not too much of a challenge because they've already got that. What I'm trying to do, from a TSB perspective, is to try to join up those voices.
Yes.
Where there are common issues. So this is what we talk about in terms of how can we put all that kind of expertise and capability together to make an impact as a collective. But I accept, if you asked all 18 of them what are the common issues that we all share, you might not get a succinct answer. You get a variety of them. We're engineers. So we're unlikely to agree kind of unanimously. However, the IMechE's done some of that work already. It's already started to engage with its membership and said, as part of its strategy that it's just launching now, it includes something called the 4 policy priorities.
Yeah.
And for me, so they are climate and sustainability, future transport, infectious disease control, and education. And if you were to ask any engineer, is that something that worries you or you've got a part to play in? Nobody would say no to any of those.
True.
So that's how I could say, right, okay, so there's almost like kind of a bit of a gift to say, right, let's focus on those. So if we as TSB are going to spend any time and energy on anything, let's focus on those. Yeah. Yes, there will be kind of nuances and kind of some bespoke stuff that, some of them might want to focus on. But, they can do that with their own kind of authority, as it were. But let's spend our energy on things that are common across us all, so that we've all got a vested interest in helping to sort it, make an impact, and really kind of help the IMechE become what it wants to be.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's really helpful to have that as a guidance, isn't it? Those themes, so that we can then look at what's going on in the world, identify where we might have some impact by applying those themes.
Yes.
And being able to come up with some ideas and solutions. And that comes in the form of all kinds of things, doesn't it, in terms of policy. Yes. and webinars and conferences and so on. So that's, I guess, where we can bring on members in to be able to participate in those sort of things.
And it's enabling them to talk to each other. I mean, often, people don't realise it, but, development is sometimes just talking to somebody who's actually having the same problems as you, but trying things in different ways.
Yeah.
And then kind of learning from them as you get into the more detail.
I spoke with Paul earlier this year about the then upcoming institution strategy. Now we're almost a few months into it, I suppose, into its launch. What do you hope will be the long-term effects of the strategy on the way mechanical engineering is perceived, and what aspects of it will TSB be focusing on behalf of its membership?
So a good strategy should be something that gives an organisation focus and enabling those who are leading the different parts of it to understand which direction they're going and what good looks like. So for me, that's been really helpful in now starting to kind of get some clarity on what that looks like in terms of high level. But what we can do from a TSB perspective is start to now get into the nitty-gritty of it.
Yeah.
And the thing I like about it is that kind of a good strategy is one that enables everyone in the organisation to look at what they're doing and then be able to compare what they're doing and if it fits with what the strategy is aiming to be, what the organisation is aiming to be. And we've got a simple one in terms of there's 2 parts to it. There's membership development and maximising impact.
Yeah.
And for me, I thought, as soon as I saw that, I thought, that's obvious, The membership development is about making sure that we give our members every opportunity to grow and develop as engineers. And that's what divisions and groups do. It's like a no-brainer. We just need to kind of continue to be good at what we're doing in that respect. So TSB has a huge part to play in that, in terms of enabling that to happen. Then the maximising the impact is about drawing on that expertise that we have in the institution to shape and influence change that is needed, whether it be societal, government, or world. So once you kind of enabled all those engineers to be really good at what they're doing, you then start to harness some of that and then bring it together to enable the institution to then be effective in what it's trying to do on behalf of its members, but as a learned society. Yeah. And that's another TSB opportunity, because we're all in the room representing our routes to expertise. What we sometimes struggle with is actually talking to each other and recognising that we share problems and really kind of getting together to be able to crack some stuff when we're maybe a bit passionate about it in our world. It's a railway issue, I can deal with that. Hydrogen is my problem, and you don't kind of tend to look at automobile and aerospace and stuff like that. Yeah. But it's trying to encourage that kind of openness to us to kind of be able to then do more with what we've got in the people.
Yeah.
You asked me about, I suppose, what good looks like. And I think it's that our engineers, they continue to be recognised as the great problem solvers of the world and of tomorrow's world. And proud. And why would that be a success story? Well, I think in today's world, as we were just talking, there are things going on that people might not immediately think engineering is part of the solution. Mm-hmm. We talk about weather and climate. We talk about infectious disease and cybersecurity. when you talk to man in the street kind of stuff, they might not think of your engineer as being part of the solution to that. But the more and more we can make it clear and visible to people in the world that that's what engineers do and that's what they're good at, the more and more they'll be able to continue to be kind of recognised for their capabilities.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point to make, that the strategy as it stands is going to enable us to raise our profile and to show the world how vitally important everything around them has been touched by an engineer, and how vitally important we are as engineers. And I think that kind of starts here, doesn't it, at TSB? Which is great.
Yeah.
It's been a real pleasure to have you on the podcast, James. I'm really excited because we're actually just about to go into TSB, aren't we? So this is really nice to kind of start getting the juices flowing, I think, ready for TSB today. So thank you ever so much for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
If this episode of I2I has got you keen to find out more about volunteering within the institution, then check out our web pages at www.imeche.org/get-involved. You can also find out more about the structure, operation and governance of the institution at www.imeche.org/about-us. If you would like to speak to a member of staff or ask a question about volunteering, then email the member engagement team at membernetworks@imeche.org. That's all for this month. In next month's episode, I will be looking at how industry is responding to the rising global temperatures and heat waves with Dr. Tim Fox and Dr. Laura Kent, co-authors of the IMechE's recent report on the subject, which has been produced in conjunction with the Process Industries Division. We will be discussing how industry is adapting to temperature change and the technical solutions engineers are developing to address some of these challenges. You've been listening to Impulse to Innovation, the Institution of Mechanical Engineers podcast. Thanks for listening. We'd love to hear from you, so if you'd like to share any news or any feedback with us, then please email us, podcast@imeche.org. All the information on this episode can be found in the episode notes.